Hey, good evening, everybody. So glad you're here with me. I'm just going to adjust my light. We have so much to talk about. Oh my gosh. I'm a little late coming on because I was getting everything taken care of. It was a big day in the Daybell trial. New stuff, new jail call we haven't heard before. Going to play it for you tonight, or at least part of it if you missed it this afternoon or this morning. A new witness. And just so much that happened today that it's just so much to talk about. So thank you for being here. I'm Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider. This is the 7th week. We have been live from Boise, and we are breaking down the Ada County Courthouse trial of Chad Daybell. And I know that many of you have been here since day one. We were here last year for Lori Vallow's trial. Thank you for joining me again. And many of you are new. Welcome to you. I said it a minute ago, we have a big day and a jail call that we want to talk about. But before I go any further, the most important thing to come out of today, are you watching? Are you listening close? Because this was a big one and you probably missed it. You probably missed it unless you were in the know. And I have exclusive, never before seen photos of the biggest thing that happened today. So pause everything you're doing and look up at your phone or your screen or wherever you're watching, because I can exclusively report that this morning, while court was in session, Elliot Eaton graduated from preschool. There are the photos. His siblings were there with him. His mother was there with him. His father was away on business. He sang some songs with his class. He took a photo there holding the apple that says the last day of school. They put on some class of 2024 glasses, wore a little graduation cap, and he walked out the door happy as can be that preschool is over. He will officially be starting kindergarten in September, I believe, or the end of August. So Elliot, great job making it through the school year. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but luckily Mom recorded most of it, and I was able to watch it later. All right, there you go. Now on to more serious matters. A big day. So much here I have to go through. I do want to start off by talking about a friend of Chad who was in line this morning who came up to talk to me. This was a woman who grew up with Chad, had a crush on Chad, and supported Chad 100% until those kids were found buried on his property. She thought that they might be in the Midwest somewhere, hidden or, in a bunker, something like that. She really defended him because that was not the Chad Daybell she knew. She came up from Springville, Utah with her daughter. In fact, she showed me a wall that she made at work before she left her old job, just detailing the case, all of the players that she knew. So many of you maybe have seen charts like this. I know we kind of had one in our newsroom. We put one up on our site, but that's just all of the connections that this woman, who didn't want to be named, told me about. So I thought this was pretty interesting. So that is one of the observations from this morning. One more witness. We learned today the prosecution has one more witness. I think I know who it is. If we were in Vegas, I'd maybe put money down. I don't bet, but I might. I'll tell you who I think it is in a few minutes, and I'll tell you why I think it's going to be this particular witness. We also learned from Judge Boyce that tomorrow will be a short day. There will be this witness, and then, by all intents and purposes, the prosecution will probably rest, if you can believe it. And that will have put us at 67 witnesses total. 67. That is a lot of people. I mean, look at my book. It's 2 pages of names, and then we have the defense witnesses. So I'll tell you a little bit about who I think that last witness is going to be and why I think it will be that person. I mentioned that we're going to have a short day tomorrow, then the defense will take over. And I should be showing you this on your screen because I made a slide. I might as well show it. One more witness tomorrow. Tonight, we're going to play that new jail call. The text messages sent after Tammy died. And these are different texts that this jury has not heard. We heard them in Lori Vallow's trial, although to me, I think I swear they sounded new-ish to me, or at least eye-opening. An email to Mark Daybell, the Daybell son who was on a mission when this happened, an email from his mom, paintball versus rifle. I thought today this witness, Nick Edwards, clearly explained to people that might not know guns or people that might not know, ARs, whatever it is. One, how Tammy could have mistaken that AR-15 for a paintball gun, but two, why Alex Cox's gun may have misfired. All along, I've thought, what if Tammy Daybell would have been gunned down there in her driveway? What if that would have worked and she would have been shot and killed in that driveway? One, it would have been the biggest story in our news back in October of 2019 to have a woman coming home from church, from a church activity, to be shot and killed in her driveway where there's not a lot of cameras. If there are any cameras, probably none in the area. The gunman was dressed in black head to toe and would have taken off in a car. I don't know if there's license plate readers along Highway 20 in that area, but so many cars were coming and going. Would that ever have been solved? I don't know. But also, why the gun didn't work? Why didn't the gun work? I keep thinking Alex Cox is a horrible gunman. He missed twice. Brandon Boudreaux, he missed, but he shot. I mean, thank the Lord that he missed, but he shot and he shattered the window. But then he missed on Tammy. So the question is, why did his gun misfire? I think we got the answer today. I'll play it for you. It was a fascinating little clip there. We're going to remember JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, and of course, your questions answered. Now, speaking of your questions, a juror who served on the Lori Vallow case, we met at Lori Vallow's sentencing, and it's one of the jurors that I was kind of watching during Lori's trial. Let me grab a drink here. She's a mother. I thought she was my wife's age. And she got very emotional on the day that the autopsy photos were shown. And I remember thinking, man, I'd love to interview that woman when this is all over. She's agreed to do an interview. And we're probably going to do it tomorrow. Maybe Friday. I want to know what you think I should ask her. And so if you could ask a juror in Lori Vallow's case any question about the case, about serving on a jury, about her thoughts, anything, I want you to email me. And I'm going to put this screen up. And this is how you can email me if you have a question for the juror. Neaton at eastidahonews.com. Please, please, please put on the subject juror question so that I know, because I get a lot of emails and I want to be sure I don't miss any of these. And I need them by noon tomorrow, Mountain Daylight Time. Noon tomorrow meaning Thursday at noon. If you have a question you want to ask this juror, and we're going to go sit down tomorrow. She's admitted she's a little nervous. I told her, don't be nervous. It's not going to be live. We're going to tape it. But I want to show it for you either tomorrow night on Courtroom Insider or Friday. I want to show it to you in full. She has a different perspective than all of us. She served on this jury. She deliberated. She helped decide Lori Vallow's fate. She sat directly across from Lori Vallow, one mother to another mother, and sat through that. And I think you're going to find the conversation really, really interesting. So again, if you have a question for her, please send me that email. I have a bunch of questions I'm going to ask, of course, but I love to hear from you. And she's open. She actually suggested that you all can reach out. There's some topics she might not want to talk about, which is totally understandable. But so far, she's willing to take them. And so we're going to hopefully meet up tomorrow, do the interview, and then I will have that for you later this week. So there is what we have for that. Also, I have to say, diverting again, a plea agreement today in a separate case, the Dylan Rounds case. James Brenner pleaded guilty to murder of Dylan Rounds. So we have a story on eastidahonews.com. I have been following that case closely. I was not able to go to that court hearing in Utah today, but my colleague Caitlin did. So my thoughts are with Dylan and his family tonight, Candace Cooley, and all of them. So it's glad they did find Dylan's body. They actually found his body, I believe it was right after jury selection in this case. And so you might recall in a Courtroom Insider from one of the first weeks, I talked about that. And now we have the plea agreement. And he pleaded guilty, and the sentencing is coming up in July. So those are the things that I'm thinking about a lot of these families. Okay, let's head on to today. Today's court. I hope, let me know if we're glitchy. I hope we're not. This room has horrible, horrible Wi-Fi. And I tried to move around and position it, but I see that the TV keeps glitching behind me. So, shoot. I hope that you're seeing me okay. Here's who we had on the stand today. Rick Wright, a retired FBI agent. He was back. He finished out yesterday. He started today. Then after him, we had Rexburg Detective Ray Hermosillo, who was the very first witness in this case, and he was back today. And we had AG, Attorney General Investigator Nicholas Edwards, who was on the stand for quite some time this afternoon, and he was on the stand as well. We'll talk about all these guys and what they had to say. Here are some photos we got of Ray Hermosillo walking inside the courtroom. He's on screen right. Screen left is Rick Wright, the FBI detective. We did not get a photo of Nicholas Edwards. Some of you sent me some photos that were of him in his military gear, but I don't know if I have clearance to show those. We don't want to steal anybody's photos. So thank you to those of you who sent photos. If you want to see what he really looks like, go ahead and Google if you want. Now let's jump right into the testimony. Rick Wright, FBI guy, FBI agent, retired now. Apparently too, we are related somewhere down the line. I didn't know this, but I guess we're relatives or something like that. So I don't know, just a random tidbit for you to know. Pryor was up today with cross-examination of Mr. Wright. The prosecution finished yesterday, so Pryor was up. One of the first things he asked is, was there any proof that Alex bought a hunting license? Maybe he was looking to get a hunting license and use all of his guns to go hunting. Rick Wright said that he did not recall that. Then he talked about the events of October 18th, 2019. This is the night before Tammy died, possibly the night she died, if she died late on the 18th. He asked about Alex's cell phone activity near the Salem LDS Church, which is 2.6 miles away from Chad's house. I think I said last night it was about a mile. I was wrong. It's actually 2.6 miles from the house to the church. It seems like it's just a mile if you're out there. But here are some of the questions Pryor asked Wright about the cell phone device activity from Alex's device the night before Tammy died.
Phone points stopped recording at 22:45 on October 18th at that site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then where did it go from there, the phone?
There was no location data between 22:45 and 23:53. And at 23:53, we got our first next point of location data, which put the phone south of this location on Highway 20.
How far south?
Distance, I'm not exactly sure. It was just west of Rexburg, basically as Highway 20 goes through Rexburg. Drive time, it was approximately a 7-minute drive time from this church if he had come from the church.
And then further after that, being south of Rexburg, where did you place him then?
He continued south on Highway 20 into Idaho Falls and stopped at the Hilton Garden in Idaho Falls.
And how long did the phone beep in Idaho Falls that evening?
It arrived at the Hilton Garden a little bit after midnight, and stayed there till approximately 10 a.m. the next morning.
So if I understand correctly, at 2353, you had something west of Rexburg,
Yes,
and then you eventually had a phone data indicating that the phone was in Idaho Falls the evening of October 18th. Is that right?
yes. After it was at the church you're talking about before that.
Well, it was at the church at 2245, correct? The phone?
Yes,
And then you said that there's a gap that you're not able to explain. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And we can't make any presumptions about that gap, can we?
That's correct.
But then what we do have is we have another data point that's west of Rexburg as the next data point at 2353.
That's correct.
And then eventually we have data points indicating that the phone is in a hotel. And what is the time the phone's in the hotel in Rexburg on October 18th?
I would approximately 12:15, though I'd have to look at my report to refresh my memory, but approximately 12:15 it arrives at that hotel.
Okay, so did you catch all that? They have, I'm going to quickly, I'm getting Facebook dings on this presentation, so I'm going to shut that off. Alex was at the church that night, or Alex's device, I should say, was at the church that night. There was data points from all over the area of the church, and then they lost the data points from around, I had the exact time, for about an hour, I believe. Nothing. Then the next thing that it picked up was Alex driving south to Idaho Falls. And then he checks in, we assume, his device, I should say, is spotted at the Hilton Garden Inn in Idaho Falls. So, all of you sleuths out there, I want to know your thoughts. What happened during that hour? Did Chad Daybell come and pick him up from the church and the phone was left in the car? And Chad drove him to the house and then drove him back? Did he walk down to the house? 2.6 miles, that's a lot to walk back and forth if you're not in good shape. Not saying he wasn't in bad shape, but, would have taken some time. Did he sit in the car? Although they lost the data point. They said nothing registered for that hour. So did he just turn off his phone? What do you think happened during that hour? And two, why did he go to a hotel in Idaho Falls? Why didn't he go home? He had the apartment in Rexburg. Why did he go to the hotel? Again, not a Rexburg hotel, not there's two hotels right there. There's more than two hotels in Rexburg, but there's like a Marriott, there's a Hilton, I believe, or a Hampton Inn. There's hotels right off the freeway. Why go all the way to Idaho Falls? I've wondered that. I don't have an answer. I had no idea. And one day, when I can interview the prosecutors and the detectives, I want to ask them that. Believe me, the questions I want to ask are bigger than my notebook here. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think was happening during those gaps of time, or during the why you went to Idaho Falls and during that gap of time. And the time data points for that night came up again a few times today during testimony and have come up on different days. It wasn't just Rick Wright that was going through the data time points, but Nick Edwards later on also went through them. And we'll talk about that. And including another thing that was brought up a few times is, did Alex Cox know anyone in the Salem area other than Chad Daybell? Nobody knew no one, there's no sign that he knew anyone else in the Chad Daybell neighborhood. After Rick Wright finished up on cross, Ray Hermosillo was on the stand. And He was tasked with the delightful job of listening to all of the phone calls between Chad and Lori when she was in jail and Chad was out. And that was she was booked beginning of March, and he was arrested in June. So March, April, May, 3 months of jailhouse calls between Chad and Lori. And guess how many there were a day? Like 10 to 12 to 15. So think of your teenagers on the phone in love, like crushes, teenage crushes. I mean, but also, I don't even know if that's a good analogy. Imagine trying to listen to Chad and Lori every day, and they had to listen to it because one, what if they said something, and two, you're gathering evidence, and also the kids are still missing. That's like the main thing. The kids are still missing. And Ray Hermosillo said we were looking for any sign to figure out where these kids could be. Chad and Lori were well aware those calls were recorded. I've spoken to inmates before, and the person who calls and the person making the call, both parties, there's a recording that says this call is being recorded. I will tell you, though, when I've been in a conversation with inmates, I sometimes forget. And after 2 or 3 minutes, you're talking, you might forget it's recording. We have no knowledge that they ever said anything like damning, like totally damning, like, oh my word, that's a big smoking gun. They seem to be very careful in what they said, thus far from what we've heard. But today we heard a call between them where it seems like there's an awful lot of code word going on about a project and blueprints and plans and a pool, and Lori needing reassurance from her husband that everything's going to be okay. And not only that, Alex, who is dead, Chad's texting Alex, whose name is Ray Lamar, but Chad's telling Lori that he's been able to text Alex, who's dead. If you know how to text dead people, please call me. There's a couple of questions I have for some loved ones who have passed, but apparently Chad does. And Lori never asked to see the texts. I mean, there's just so many questions here. Of all things, Detective Hermosillo's name is Ray. So he's testifying about messages to a Ray. In fact, when they first said, who is the Ray, I assumed he was going to say it's me, but it wasn't. It's this Ray Lamar, Homer J. Maximus, Alex Cox character, person. Got all that? Here's the call. I don't think I'll play the whole thing. Maybe I will if you're into it. And it goes back and forth between Detective Hermosillo talking and Rob Wood asking him questions. And can I just say that the prosecution has done such a good job here. Sorry, that's my personal opinion based on observing it and having these 67 witnesses. My gosh, it's amazing. I cannot imagine trying to put this case together. All I have to do is report to you what happens. That's it. They've got to make it happen and have us report it. And by the way, we'll fully say the same thing about John Pryor next week based on, his defense. And I do think, given that he's handled this thing alone, that the fact that he can stay on top of it and continually object and raise issues when he's doing this solo, my hat's off to him too, because that is not an easy job when your client's life is on the line and you're doing this day in and day out for 6-7 weeks. Okay, here's the call. I know many of you commented about how cringy it is, how Chad giggles a lot. Maybe try to look past that and just look at the contents and try to figure out what in the world they're talking about. But there are some interesting clues maybe, or things here and there that I think you might find interesting.
Oh, that's good. Usually it's hard to get a hold of him. He's busy
Okay.
days.
Yes. But I asked him what we'd talked about. And he's very optimistic.
It was very optimistic for you, or he's very optimistic it could happen?
He's very optimistic for both of us.
He doesn't know his own project timeline.
He said, stick with it. what he projected in that paper he wrote.
You know, house renovations always take longer than they think.
That's the problem.
I've been watching that Extreme Pools,
Uh-huh.
and the people are like 3 months out. Like,
I mean,
when they estimated they'd have it done, and they're like, we had so many problems, we couldn't get to the backyard, we had to pull a crane over the house to get these huge rocks for the waterfall.
I can remember last summer, Taylor Hill, Mark's friend, parents moved into a trailer, like a camping trailer, in their driveway because they were going to build their house by the end of the year. Guess where they're still at?
Really?
They sold their house to their son. And it's just a weird situation, but you're exactly right. Yeah, it takes forever.
Yeah, there's always something comes up. Well, we didn't know when we dug in your backyard, we were gonna find whatever. And then they're like, we have to redo all the piping, and then we had trouble with this, and then something else happened. And so, but they try to make it sound like it wasn't really that long, but it's always like, it's gonna take 3 months. And then 3 months after that, they're like, okay, it took 6 months. You couldn't come in your backyard at all. And now it's not summer anymore. Now it's winter, and your pool is finally done.
Right.
Mostly they do it in Florida and places like that. But. So he's optimistic about his construction problem, or construction
Problems.
not problems, but plan. His
Yeah.
construction plan, the blueprints are still intact.
Yes.
They're timing.
And I kind of just said, I texted him what you just said is, you guys are always a little off.
Right, exactly. We just want a real estimate.
Right.
What do you say?
He just laughed.
So he did not confirm nor deny that fact. That contractors are always later than they think they're gonna be.
He's like, it'll work out, how he is. He did want me to say he misses you. But he's not far from, contact. We can talk. We can text him whenever he wants.
Yeah, I can't text anybody. Have text. You have to text for me. That's like me telling you, I need you to tell this person and talk to this person.
I'll text him back. But he's optimistic. I want to go visit him and grab him by the throat and say, really?
Can he? I know he's optimistic, but can he just make us any guarantees? I mean, we did make our down payments and everything else.
Guarantee.
I would like a guarantee, just an end date of our project.
Well,
Okay, I'm going to pause there. Are you confused? It's funny because listening to it again, I feel like I'm picking up more. Alex is telling Lori that he's texting this Ray character who's Alex Cox, who's dead. Lori is talking about this project. She's getting impatient. She wants the project to keep moving along. She's telling Chad, what is he saying? What's he saying? Have you asked? She just said, we've put down our down payment. Like, we've done our part. What is the down payment? Is it the fact that the kids were killed? What are they in a hurry for? Tammy's dead. Are they in a hurry for Lori to be released from jail? What's the next part of the plan? Chad is saying, oh, he laughed when I texted him and asked him about it. Not really giving her answers. And you'll see that the call just continues to her saying, I need you to reassure me that like this is what's supposed to happen. If you were just listening to this just willy-nilly off the street, and maybe some of you are that are brand new, you're probably like, what are these two talking about? blueprints, and she's watching Extreme Pools, which, by the way, is Extreme Pools a program? I'm going to look it up. I've never heard of that. I've heard of Extreme Homes. But Extreme Pools. And apparently Lori's watching this show in... Okay, it is. Extreme Pools Off the Deep End. She's watching this show in prison, or in jail. And they're behind on the project. And she wants her contractor to get this thing done. Okay, let's go back to the call. And we'll see what else they have to say.
This slide in blue
1 minute.
is check.
Here we go.
So he did not confirm nor deny that fact. That contractors are always later than they think they're gonna be.
He's like, it'll work out, how he is. He did want me to say he misses you. But he's not far from, contact. We can talk, we can text him whenever he wants.
Yeah, I can't text anybody. Have text.
It was,
You text for me. That's like me telling you, I need you to tell this person and talk to this person.
I'll text him back. But he's optimistic. I want to go visit him and grab him by the throat and say, really?
Can he? I know he's optimistic, but can he just make us any guarantees? I mean, we did make our down payments and everything else.
Guarantee.
It was like a guarantee, just an end date of our project.
Well, he knows you pretty well. So he just laughs. No, I asked him what he thought of the video project. He said it was really nice. He loved it.
Oh, good.
Detective, through your investigation, were you aware of any type of video put out about Alex Cox around this time?
Not around June 8th. But shortly after Alex Cox died, his sister Summer Shiflett made a YouTube video with clips of Alex, photos throughout his life, and put it to music. And so we viewed that early on in the investigation, but that's what is being referred to here.
Judge, I'm going to object. That calls for speculation. He can't speculate is what it calls for.
Untimely, overruled.
And Judge, I had stopped playing at 12:13. I'm gonna recommence playing at 12:13.
You may.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Although I'd never heard that song before. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just something on like iMovie or something that's on your phone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like one of the backgrounds that you can
Church
use or something.
just a happy one. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't know, because I've never even heard that one, or I've never seen the app, but I know people can do that. iMovie, it was always on my iPhone. I just didn't ever click on it.
Yeah. But
So,
frustratingly optimistic, I guess is.
so frustrating for us.
Yeah,
We're gonna be
that's what I
completed.
mean.
Thanks for completing your project on time. Will they get a bonus? They do it.
Oh, yeah, we'll give him a bonus. It was good. It was good to talk. I hadn't texted him in a while. So,
So he would still answer all my questions in the same way, you think, if I texted him?
I think you ought to write down some questions for him and maybe even mail them off and see what happens. See if he'll respond to you. I have no doubt. Don't forget President Holland's talk. That snippet. He seemed like he wants to text you if he could. Yeah, it's all true. That's all I can say. They haven't forgotten.
I know they want to work on their project and they're not too happy and busy. You know, that's how I spelled it out. Oh, just like, I'm busy.
Well, true
I'm
for that.
good. It's good. It's good. You know what I'm saying?
No, he's still very interested. He hasn't like forgotten about us.
Good. I know he has other projects, so I don't know how much time that takes. but-
He's involved in this latest batch.
Well, remind him when you do text him back that at the beginning of this project, he said there was only like a 3% chance that there would be trouble from certain aspects. And that seems like 100% trouble because that's where it all started. So find out about that.
Right.
See what he has to say for himself on that issue. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.
Recall what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Judge, I'm going to stop at 16:35. Detective, who is asking who to obtain information in that snippet we just heard?
Lori was asking Chad for information.
Your Honor, I'm going to continue playing at 16:35.
You may.
So I want to know why that is 100% instead of 3% chance of having a problem.
I think he was somewhat right in that. The other aspect was other people. It was a combination.
I know it was a combination. I'm not saying there were other problems, obviously. It's of the location. But what I'm saying is that it's a combination of only, 5 problems.
I agree.
That was a big one.
It was a big one. Uh-huh.
So my faith in those kinds of guarantees are lower.
Me too.
And beggars can't be choosers, I get that, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
It's not like I get to pick the colors of everything that I want. He's just gonna have to figure it out.
Right.
Since I'm here and I can't be in charge of the project, so.
Mhm. Yeah. I've thought back on that entire scenario.
We went over the plan and the blueprint
Mm-hmm.
and
And yeah, he said that wouldn't be a problem. Hmm. Well,
What's your take on that?
oh,
Why was that?
it really was.
Right.
No, I don't doubt that. It's just strange how it blossomed. So
So go ahead.
you go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, so. You think it was meant to have complications and? Meant to go that direction?
At some point, yeah.
Well, then you should have said, hey, this is a 99% chance that we're gonna have trouble with this soil,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's all we were asking.
Well,
Could this potentially be good, or do we have to fill it with sand?
I think we sensed that we shouldn't take it lightly, and I don't think we did. I mean, we only discussed the matter with the trouble once, and I thought we cut it off and did well, and now that problem is kind of causing its own trouble for itself.
Right. But there's other things in the project where when I'm going back over it, right, that I could have easily done or been inspired to do to avoid a lot of the issues that are gonna come up with that.
Yeah.
That we weren't made aware of, so. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So it was meant to go this way, you think, is what I'm saying.
I do. It's terrible. Minor changes here and there, but overall, this was part of the blueprint. I mean, just
What?
oh, I just wish it hadn't been. But I'm thinking of previous blueprints where the people weren't warned either. It's maddening. But, Ray's in that contractor position for a reason, and it's he's not gonna drop us for another project.
Well, can't he like forcibly use a hand, punch some people in the face and get some things done? Some people in particular, like the 3%er person?
I don't think he wants to be violent, but Mhm.
Well, I'm not saying be violent, I'm saying get their attention.
He did. What he did is kind of mute her effect. He I don't know, just kind of kept her in her place for quite a while, to the point it almost diffused any value of
No,
her.
I'm talking about, not talking about that. In the beginnings, you know, going back over the whole blueprint and all the things that we've been, you know, I don't know what the word is, you know, when you go through it. Anyway, a lot of that stuff could have been avoided,
Yeah,
just minor tweaks.
yes.
And I don't know why it had to go down this road to where we are now in the project.
Mm-hmm. I know. I don't fully understand. I think he'd text you back or write you back.
Ultimately, what I need from you is that the project is gonna be finished and everything is gonna be fine and it's gonna work out.
That's what he said.
Well, I need you to tell me that every day, several times.
Okay. My sweet, lovely Lola. Things are going to work out. Not just because he says so, but because I know so. It's a marvelous plan. Slight
How do you know
hiccup.
so?
How do I know? It's been shown to me, honey. I've seen those beautiful eyes filled with tears as she sings to amazing groups of people. And I've seen that wonderful body dance to heavenly songs.
Your Honor, I'm stopping at 2641. Detective, in that conversation, who is asking who for assurances?
Lori was asking Chad, and we found that throughout multiple phone calls. She would ask Chad for assurance.
And who said they had seen the plan?
The defendant, Chad Daybell.
Your Honor, I'm starting again at 2641.
Your purpose is only beginning, it's hardly begun. And it will be the pair. It won't be solo. And it's going to be incredible.
Be cholo and not solo.
That's right. Yep. It will be the Eurythmics. No solo careers. I'm just absolutely sure. I was saying it will be the Eurythmics. It won't be two solo careers.
I know, but I'm saying, you said you have absolute what, confidence?
Absolute assurity, confidence, confirmation. It's going to be as seen. There's some things that aren't going to be altered. Your value is tremendous, immense, and needed in every way. You're tremendous, my love. I know that is a fact. I think you underestimate yourself. I'm not trying to give you a big head or ego because you don't have one. You just are spectacular, and the Lord is going to use those talents. You're on earth at this time for that purpose. I'll try to call you back so we can pray. Okay.
Okay, I wasn't planning on playing the whole thing, but there you go. Imagine having to listen to that type of call, 10 of them a day. That's what Detective Hermosillo had to do for 3 months, the calls. 10 hours after that call, the cops were at Chad Daybell's house to serve that warrant. 24 hours after that call, Chad Daybell was locked up in jail. Never, as far as we know, to talk to Lori up to this point again. On the phone, at least. So the blueprint, whatever the plan was, not sure if they saw that coming, but that's what it was. What did you think of the call? So many questions. Lori appears to need reassurances a lot in that call. And the whole call, by the way, was not played. I don't remember what the timing was. They just played that portion of it. And then, I don't know, they never said if Chad did call back to pray with her. So fascinating that really 10 hours after that call, the cops show up with the warrant. Pryor did cross-examine Hermosillo. He had a couple questions about some of the things that were found in Alex Cox's garage. There wasn't much here. And then Nick Edwards took the stand. Now, Nick Edwards is an investigator with the Attorney General's office. He worked for the Pocatello Police Department. He worked as a SWAT trainer. He's in the National Guard. He knows guns. He knows weapons. He presented a timeline of events. And again, a lot of this stuff we've heard, but it was kind of like I don't know how many timelines we've heard in this case, but this was kind of like a summary, I guess you could say, because he's the second to last witness. They really want to drill down important dates and times. And the timeline was clear. It was concise. It laid out everything from, Chad and Lori meeting up until the children died, until the time that Chad and Lori were arrested. And he went through it. He went through it bit by bit. And he shared some texts that were sent between Chad and Lori. So we go from the lovey-dovey call to the lovey-dovey texts. Hold on. This one is not as long, I promise, but it might be a little bit more nauseated. I don't know. You decide.
This slide in blue is Chad and in pink is Lori. So the first one is July 13th, 2019. Chad sends a text message to Lori and says, "I'm heading to bed so that I can come snuggle tightly against you. I adore you. You are truly my best friend on earth and throughout eternity. See you in a minute."
And again, this is just 2 days after Charles Vallow is shot and killed.
Correct.
And then if you move to July 14th, if you would also read those messages into the record.
Okay, I'll start on the left, July 14th, 2019. Chad states, "I need so badly to just gently kiss you for hours." And then the time is 8:33 p.m. Chad again, "It would likely lead to other activities." Time is 8:34. Lori replies, "Likely or lucky," at 8:34. Chad replies, it would luckily lead to nakedness," at 8:35. Shift to the other side.
Yes, please.
Okay. July 14th, 2019. Know that Chad has written a romantic sexual story called James and Elena and sent it to Lori. Chad sends a text, "I love you, Elena," with heart emojis. "We have an amazing love story," sent at 9:54. Chad again, "Heading to bed and then heading to Lily. Can't wait to talk in the morning. You are fabulous." Heart emoji, fire, kiss at 9:57.
Okay, I know many of you are asking if we have East Idaho News barf bags. I'm sorry, we don't. We don't. But if there's ever another trial like this, I'll talk to our marketing people and maybe we can come up with one. Anyway, we hear the Harry Potter text, which we've talked about. The fact that Chad tells Lori he finally figures out who he is. He's like Harry Potter trapped underneath the stairs, and every once in a while he gets to escape and see his goddess lover, and then he has to go back to the dungeon. But don't worry, because freedom is coming soon. Here's something new and interesting, at least to me. I didn't recall this in Lori's trial. When Zulema came to Idaho, Chad texted Lori to ask Lori to have Zulema text him to do something. Again, this is the pattern the prosecution's trying to show, that people would do what Chad wanted, that he was kind of the ringleader, and plus he's lying. Tammy is alive at this point when he asks Zulema to do this.
On July 30th, 2019, Chad again sends Lori a text message. It says, yes, quote, yes, we might need to release a little steam when we talk. Anyway, this is the chart that checks what percentages mortals are still in their body. It worked for my friend's wife who died, my neighbor, George Bush, Stanley Lee, etc. I kind of forgot about it because we've been dealing with zombies and demonic entities. But this afternoon, Tammy said she felt lightheaded, as if her body and spirit weren't connected. Goes on to say, quote, I got the inspiration to go back to my original death percentages that helped us track Charles, Ned, etc. Tammy is very close. Her percentage has fallen steadily since Hiplos left. It's encouraging.
Through the investigation, did you determine who Hiplos or Iplos would have been referencing?
I don't remember that.
And in this, did you notice whose death percentages are being referenced?
Yes, Tammy's.
And can you talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing on this next slide?
So August of 2019, we know that Chad again traveled to Arizona where he stayed with Lori. And on August 14th, 2019, Lori actually takes a screenshot of 2 wedding bands that she purchased from Serenity Rings. Same type.
And again, at this time, Tammy Daybell is still alive.
She is.
And on this next slide, can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
So this is also text message content on the far right between Lori, Zulema, Chad. On September 15th, 2019, Zulema travels to Rexburg under the Lori and Chad's direction. Zulema then assisted Chad in getting out of the house so that Lori and Chad could meet. And that's evident in the text message. The top one is a text message that's actually from Chad that is sent to Zulema from Lori, if that makes sense. But from Chad, he says to Lori, please have Zulema send a message to me that she's in Rigby and wanted to see if I could come listen to her talk tonight about her trip to Chile. Lori then sends a message again to Zulema. He wants you to send a text so he can come talk to us tonight. Zulema then sends a text message complying with Chad's request to Chad. Hello, Chad. I'm in Rigby. I want to see if you would come listen to me talk about my trip to Chile. Chad replies to Zulema, tonight? ? Zulema replies to Chad, yes, tonight. Chad to Zulema, I can be there at 7:30. Thanks. And then Zulema to Chad, awesome. See you then.
Okay. I found a lot of stuff
there's another
there.
note there regarding September.
Pause it. The fact that Zulema does it, sends the message, Chad, tonight, Okay, I'll be there. But also the death percentages of Tammy. This is the first time in this trial the jury's heard this stuff as far as Tammy is concerned. And the text messages that were going back and forth between Lori, Chad, about Tammy's death percentages. There was talk about burner phones. If you're going to get a burner phone and you don't want the police to track you, you probably shouldn't go with your active phone to buy the burner phone, because that's exactly what Alex Cox did, and they were able to determine that both phones were at the same place at the same time. Then we learn about the night that Tammy was shot at in her driveway, October 9th, 2019. And an email she sent her son, who was on a mission, where she, in her own words, talked about what happened there in the driveway. Here's what she wrote.
On October 13th, 2019, Tammy sent her son, Mark, an email, who was serving an LDS mission at the time. And it says, quote, "I was coming home from clogging. It was about 9:15, and I backed into the front driveway. I was getting some items out of the back seat. We had made freezer meals for enrichment that night and my clogging shoes. I realized someone was by the back of the car. I looked up, thinking it was Dad or Garth to help me carry stuff in. Nope. It was a guy dressed in all black with a ski mask on, pointing a rifle at me. I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, 'What do you think you're doing?' Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top. The guy started pulling the trigger, and I could just hear the clicking and a whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. He stayed standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I kept asking him what he thought he was doing. At that point, I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door, and he didn't step toward me or even say anything. The scared part came after, when my brain thought of the other things that could have happened. The thought crossed my mind to hit him with my clogging shoes. But first, I looked toward the house and yelled, 'Chad.' Then they guy ran off around the north side of the house. I ran in the house and got Dad and Garth."
Have you ever had something happen that like scares you? Like takes the breath out of you, or a big adrenaline boost? I told you all, if you watched, I think the very first day on my drive to Boise for this trial, it was snowing and crazy, and I was going around 80 on the interstate, and I hit a patch of ice, and my car spun out of control. I ended up in the median, across into oncoming traffic. Thank goodness nobody was coming. And then I pulled back in the median, and then my car was shaking for like 20 minutes because all this ice got up in there. Anyway, I was fine. My car was fine. For the rest of the day, I was so shook up. And then that night, I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about it. I cannot imagine what was going through Tammy Daybell's mind that night as this scary situation unfolded in her driveway. Okay, even if it was a paintball man, a guy with a paintball gun, would you not be scared out of your mind? And to then try to sleep, and I'm sure at work you tell people. I mean, I just don't. It's so much to try to take in, and realize what she went through. There was a really good description. I told you earlier. I kind of teased it about the gun, the rifle versus the paintball gun, and the differences. And Lindsay Blake had Nick Edwards point out how the scope could have been mistaken for something on the paintball gun, and also why Alex's gun likely misfired that night. And here is what he said about that.
Are you aware of anything that can resemble a hopper on a rifle?
Yes,
What would that be?
a scope.
Do you also see an indication that the individual is doing more than simply pointing the firearm?
Yes,
And what did you see in addition to that?
he keeps pulling the trigger, pointing the gun at her.
And do you recall what color the items were that were purchased from Sportsman's Warehouse earlier in the day?
Black.
And I'd previously asked you what on a rifle could resemble a hopper. Can you tell us what we're seeing in that first image, the top one?
So the top image is the 6.5 millimeter Grendel AR that was recovered. It belonged to Alex Cox.
And can you tell us what that bottom image is?
The bottom image is an example of a Tippmann paintball gun that was pulled.
And with that pointer, can you show us where the hopper is on the paintball gun?
On this particular paintball gun, this is the hopper right here.
And in relation to that firearm, can you tell us where the scope is?
This is the scope right here.
And again, we talked previously about your experience with using both assault rifles and paintball guns. Do these appear to be accurate representations of some that you've seen before?
They do.
And in Tammy's description, the gun is being pointed at her.
Yes,
Would that indicate she's looking at the front of the gun?
that's how I would interpret it. Yes.
Did you notice anything else in relation to that Grendel 6.5 in relation to the end of that firearm, like the front of it?
Yeah. So I noticed that the front of this has been grooved out or has the capacity of having something attached to the front of it.
And in your experience, what types of things can be attached to the front of an assault rifle?
A suppressor.
If a firearm has a suppressor attached and it's fired, would it still potentially make a sound?
Yes.
What type of a sound might it make?
Whooshing sound.
Did you notice anything? Let me back up. Did you personally observe this 6.5 Grendel?
I did.
Did you make any additional observations in relation to this firearm?
I did.
And what were those?
It's kind of difficult to see on this picture, but you'll notice there's a gap right here. Sorry, my hand's shaking a little bit, but there's a gap between the upper and the lower receiver of the weapon.
And can you talk about what we're seeing here?
This is the gap I was talking about between what is the lower receiver and the upper receiver of the weapon.
And can you tell us a little bit about why that stood out to you?
So this particular weapon, when I observed it, if you tipped or even slightly moved that weapon, there's two pins on these weapons. There's a front takedown pin and a rear takedown pin. Typically, those sit tight within the weapon and they keep the weapon together. It comes apart in two pieces. They have an upper receiver and a lower receiver. And when you take one of that rear takedown pin out, this one here, that weapon actually hinges and comes up. If that makes sense. If you take both of them out, the weapon comes apart in two pieces. So for me, when I saw this weapon and I held it, literally just turning it a little bit caused that rear takedown pin to come out. Didn't take me hardly anything to do that. Most weapons, those sit very secure and tight.
And if something caused that pin to come loose, would the gun still fire?
Judge, objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Would
It could.
gun- And you say it could. Would it fire multiple times from your training and based on your training and experience?
So the minute that gap is formed between the upper and the lower receiver, what happens in this weapon is this bolt right here, when the weapon is fired, retracts into the buttstock of the weapon, into the stock. So when that gap is created, this bolt right here cannot retract into the buttstock of the weapon. The gun would malfunction quick. You may get one round off, but you won't get more if that weapon stays separated.
Okay, so did you catch that? If the pins became loose at all, you might be able to fire one round, but no more. And simply shaking the gun, turning it over, the pins could become loose. If Alex Cox had to run from that place where he parked to the other driveway because Tammy parked in the other driveway. They were kind of expecting, from what we heard, Tammy they thought was going to park in the one driveway. She didn't. So it may have thrown off the plan. The gun could have malfunctioned. And that's what it sounds like happened. I know I'm running long tonight. I apologize. I will get through the next few points, and then we'll get to your questions. But there was just so much today. There was Google searches that Alex did for how to clean an AR, what caliber could penetrate a windshield, a 2008 Dodge Dakota body thickness. They had a Dodge Dakota, the Daybells did, how to attach a silencer to your gun. Here's the timeline of Tammy at 10:22. She's playing games on her phone on the 18th. At 11:28, one image is deleted from her phone. We don't know what that image is or was. Could it have been a photo of whoever was killing her? Could it have been a struggle? We don't know. We do know that less than 10 minutes later, Chad was texting Lori, and that Alex left that church parking lot at 11:46 and took off for Idaho Falls to the Hilton Garden Inn. So all of that within an hour and about 20 minutes, an hour 20. Tammy's playing games on her phone, probably in bed. An image is deleted an hour later. During the time that there is no data point on Alex Cox's phone, Chad texts Lori, Alex leaves the church parking lot. Many of you are saying, where's the evidence for Chad Daybell's phone? Where's his pings? Where's his data? Where's the text? Where's all that? We haven't heard much. We haven't heard much. And maybe that final witness tomorrow will have it. If not, we didn't hear anything during Lori's trial about it. And so they probably don't have it. They probably, at least up to this point, they haven't had it. We'll see. But what they do have is text messages sent the morning after, or the morning, day of, if Tammy died on the 19th, 7 a.m., guess who's texting? Lori and Chad. And here's what they were saying.
October 20th, 2019, between 7:48 and 8:33 a.m.
Sorry, this was the 20th. This was the 20th, not the 19th.
October 20th, 2019, between 7:48 and 8:33 a.m. Again, Lori is in Hawaii. Lori sends a text, and again, this is in pink and blue. I'm missing you more. I need you desperately. Heart emoji. I can't wait. Kiss emoji, kiss emoji. Need you to hold me tight. That would be great. What about the idea of you coming here Thursday or Friday? Or do you want me to come home? ? Chad replies, their apartment is haunted and we can't clear the place. So they are looking to move anyway, and I have the perfect place for them. I need to be here to get sorting the financial stuff, and I truly need your help. So please come home Thursday so we can spend the night together. Then as soon as I have things under control, we can return. I seriously want you to look for a condo for us while you are there that we could return to at the first of the month. Lori replies, I know exactly where we should be. I don't really care where we are as long as you are holding me forever. Heart emoji. Chad, I want to get going full steam ahead on Lily workout plan. Tighten the abs, get a full body tan, grow out my hair. This could be really good for both of us. She replies, I love that plan. It's not soon enough though. This is torture. Maybe you need to clear my mind so I can't remember how much I love you. Heart emoji. I will try, but it feels like Raphael and Lily are together about 100%. Not sure it will ever be lower again. That's true. I do feel you. Heart emoji. I feel lovesick. I can't sleep. I don't want to eat. I just want you. It's so consuming. And then 2 emojis, and I'm not sure what those are. I'm not sure what those are. I know exactly how you feel. I'm feeling sad, but it isn't for the reason everyone thinks.
I'm feeling sad, but it isn't for the reason everyone thinks. His wife's been dead 24 hours. I didn't even get to the part where he talks about how Samantha, Tammy's wonderful sister, had the evil spirit in her and that it came from their daughter. Yeah, we've talked about that before, but they read that text. Final clip I want to play for tonight is John Pryor. And then I'll get to your questions. And my goodness, all of you on YouTube, thank you so much. Peggy, who monitors our YouTube feed, is telling me that many of you are sending in very generous donations to help our newsroom and to help me get healthy snacks to get rid of my cough. It's getting better, right? Pryor on cross-examination got up, and Nick Edwards, he had some good questions for Nick Edwards. Nick Edwards handled him very well. And here is one part of the encounter with them talking about the text messages. Here we go.
Could you read under September 8th? The two sentences below or just next to September 8th, 2019, starting with Tammy's?
September 8th, 2019, Tammy's life insurance through Ballard Insurance from the school was raised to $50,000. She raised her individual amount from $10,000 to a max of $80,000 for a total of $130,000.
Okay. And then obviously there was a claim for that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then there was a comment on October 31, 2019 that Chad received and deposited $300,000 life insurance from Primerica, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any knowledge as part of the number of agencies involved in this investigation when Chad and Tammy Daybell opened up that life insurance policy?
It's on this slide, March 19th of 2002.
Okay, I don't see that on the slide. I'm sorry.
It's at the top.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I missed that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You had mentioned earlier about a number of text messages. The prosecutor asked you about the content of a number of text messages. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
What was the range he was talking about in those text messages where there was no content?
Specific. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Say that again.
There were a number of text messages where the prosecutor asked you about not having any content in some of those text messages. Correct?
Okay. Yes, sir.
And do you recall which device and what was the range that you were not provided content of text messages?
There were a number of text messages that we didn't get the content for. Some we got, some we did not.
Okay.
So specifically, I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
Okay. Well, you answered my question. Thank
Okay.
you. But
Good.
the issue is then, isn't it true then that we don't know what those folks were talking about, do we?
No, sir, we don't.
We don't know what the discussion centered around, do we?
I believe I know.
Well, how do you know if there's no content?
My training and experience
Okay.
and this overall case.
Okay. So basically you're speculating, isn't it true, of what the content may be because it aids you in supporting your theory of the case. Isn't that true?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained. I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, so Nick Edwards says, I believe I know. We might not know what those words were, or what the specifics were, but I believe I know after investigating this. And they finished with Nick Edwards. Then the judge called in the prosecutor and the defense, and then they came out and the judge said the prosecution has one more witness. It will be tomorrow. It shouldn't take all day, and tomorrow will be an early day. And I believe that witness is going to be Doug Hart of the FBI. A couple of reasons why. One, he was one of the closing witnesses in Lori Vallow's case. He talked about, remember the texts about turning up the pain on Tylee, on the children? We haven't heard that yet in this trial. Maybe they're not going to bring it in, but that's something that I remember from last year and that Doug Hart could talk about. Two, the prosecutor said earlier on that Doug Hart would be recalled. And they didn't get through this is the guy that did all of the analysis of Lori's iCloud accounts. They didn't hit on a lot of it. I think they're going to come in with him tomorrow. They're going to go through the rest of the iCloud. They're going to present some of the most forward damning evidence, whatever you want to call it. I think Pryor will then cross-examine. I think the court will dismiss for today, and the defense could start Friday. I'm thinking more likely Monday. And then the defense, who knows? Who knows? We know he's going to call 3 of the kids. He said he will, at least 3. He's got a couple of expert witnesses. Will that take 3 days, 5 days? I don't know. Could a week from now, could the jury have the case? That might be a little fast. But also, you got to look at the calendar. Memorial Day is a week from Monday. Would the judge hold them over the weekend, over a holiday weekend? Jurors wouldn't like that. Jurors might be pushed to let's get a verdict done by Memorial Day. And remember, if the verdict is guilty, then we go right into the penalty phase. And that's when both sides will put up witnesses again over should he get death, should he get life in prison. That could take several days. That could take 2 weeks, a week. It all depends. Then the jury goes back and deliberates the punishment. So even though the prosecution will probably rest tomorrow, and believe me, anything could change, but the judge today did say there's one more witness in their case in chief. They'll probably rest tomorrow. The defense could go, we still have at least a few more weeks in the trial before we have a verdict. I don't know if I publicly said I thought we'd have a verdict by Memorial Day, but I don't think that's the case, unless things go super fast next week. And then maybe I will have been right all along. We won't have a sentence. We won't have a punishment by Memorial Day, in my opinion. Just my thought. I could come on tomorrow night and it's not Doug Hart and I have egg all over my face and I'll totally own it. But I think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be him. Just my 2 cents. Okay, here we go. So many questions, but before I do that, I want to show you this fun photo of JJ. 2 photos, actually. Remember Brandon Boudreau talked about how JJ loved to carry around a suitcase and travel and pack up his suitcase. And there he is with a suitcase. And of course, it looks like he's swimming and there's a pool behind him in that other photo. What little boy doesn't love to be in the water? And then here, of course, is 2 photos of Tylee holding a little baby. And there she is with her hair done. So tonight we remember them and we remember Tammy and Charles as well. I'm going to sneeze, I thought. So, of course, this is for them. This whole case is for them to get justice. Alrighty. I have received, during the past hour, 250 juror questions from you. I will try to ask them all, but I don't think I'll get around to it. And because of that, I cannot find Peggy. I cannot find the questions for tonight because I have so many emails coming in. So what I'm going to do is do a search, and I have some great shout outs. Oh, and guess what? Breaking news. Our t-shirts have arrived. Did you order a t-shirt? Did you order a mugshot t-shirt? They came today, and I'm going to show you our lobby. There we go. See that? It's full of t-shirts. So for those of you that ordered a mugshot t-shirt, it's in our lobby, and we are going to start unpacking those boxes tomorrow and get them packaged up and shipped to you, some as early as this weekend, most next week. And for those of you that didn't order a shirt, we might have a few extra, but don't email me about it yet. I'll let you know if we have a few extra. Okay. So much to talk about. Here we go. Shout outs to Brandy Herring. Thank you, Brandy. Bobette and Bob Carlson. I think I know you guys. Shane and Jody Johnson. Chelsea C. Jennifer Fox, Judy Powers, Caroline Innes, Jennifer Carey Fox, Darlene Richer, Frances Marshall Wise, and Fawn Marshall, a mother and daughter who watch together every night. Thank you. God bless you. Kathy Gammons, Kathy McDowell, Linda Price, Becky Bond, Donna Barnes, Debbie McLean, Marilee Cowan. We got a lot of shout outs tonight. Debbie Virgin, Dee Condon, Susan Cummings, Jeanette Timberville, Pete Peterson, Beth D. Thank you all so much. And I want to give a shout out in Arizona. We have a viewer, Lauren King. Thank you so much for watching. She just found us here on Courtroom Insider. So glad that you're with us and that you can watch every night, and hopefully you're learning a little bit here and there. Let's go to the question. Oh, and to all of you on YouTube who are sending in some donations, I don't know much about the super chat and the super pinning and all that. We're kind of learning as we do this, so that does help East Idaho News. I thank you so much, and those of you on Facebook too who are helping support us. Don't feel obligated, but thank you. Okay, I have a follow-up on death row inmates. They are housed in Idaho. So if Chad Daybell is sentenced to death, they're housed at IMSI on the J block tier. They're isolated 23 hours a day and only out while cuffed. So they have to, with the hour a day they're out of their cell, they're cuffed. They have no physical contact with any inmates at any time. What a life, living in isolation. Stacy Smith asks for a side-by-side comparison of Lori's charges with Chad's charges. That's a good point. Let me show you. Well, first of all, here are the charges that Chad's facing. And Lori's are pretty similar. You see, we have the 3 counts of first-degree murder for Tammy, JJ, and Tylee. Lori Vallow did not face first-degree murder for Tammy. So, that first one she did not have. Then we have the 3 counts of conspiracy to commit murder. And that is JJ, Tammy, and Tylee again. Then we have grand theft, and we have insurance fraud. And here is a graphic that I'll show you that we had made. I guess here, this might just be the best way to do this. This is on our Instagram account that we put up after Lori, after her guilty verdict. Can you see that? It's up at the top. There we go. She was conspiracy for Tylee, first degree for Tylee, conspiracy for JJ, first degree for JJ, and conspiracy for Tammy and grand theft. So basically the differences are Chad has a first degree for Tammy and he has insurance fraud. Lori did not have insurance fraud and she did not have the first degree for Tammy. So I hope that helps. Did Tammy Daybell take her trip to Springville, Utah by herself? It's hard to keep everything straight, but it seems like it was in September of 2019. It was the first weekend of October 2019, 2 weekends before she died. Was at the same time Alex Cox's phone was pinged at the Daybell house. I don't remember if it was the pinging, but another thing that I couldn't get to today because of time, he was really encouraging her to get out of there. She left, and then Lori texted Alex and said, we're actually going to have a real date tonight. Lori finally got to have a date with her boyfriend, whose wife was still alive. And then she said, we're probably not going to go out. We're going to stay in, but you can come and sing with us. Lori told Alex. So that weekend where he was so anxious to get Tammy out of there, Lori was anxious to have a date with her man. Kathy asked, did they ever find any clothing Chad or Alex wore pertaining to the deaths? They would have had DNA from everyone. We were talking about it today. Not as far as we know. They haven't shown any clothing. And, yeah, that's all I can say about that. I get this one a lot. What's in the small shoebox container that sits between Pryor and Chad? Chad often opens it, removes something, and they huddle during witness testimony. Okay, in those boxes, I believe, are all the little flash drives. You know how each exhibit on the computer has a flash drive, and they each are like initialed, or they each have their own exhibit. They are all kept in those boxes that Pryor has to keep him straight. So Chad Daybell will open them, remove the flash drive, likely plug it into his computer. Pryor can do the same. And then at the end of the day, they put them in there and take them with them. It's to keep them all straight. So, yeah, I did wonder the same thing, too, when I first saw it. Is there a way to tell Pryor to remember to speak into the mic and stop cutting people off? He's clearly over top of everyone. It's getting difficult to hear. Well, the judge has done that several times, and it's just not working. Okay, Levi. I met Levi. Levi, thanks for watching. I know I met you the other night. And Erica's calling me, but I'm still on here. Levi said, It was a pleasure meeting you today and glad we could talk at the courthouse. I'm Levi. I was the youngest there and sadly, oh, Eric is telling me Chad's up. Thank you, honey. That's why she was calling. I was looking at the wrong camera. Okay. Back to the question. Levi, I was the youngest there today and sadly they didn't want anyone under the age of 16, so I got kicked out after the first recess for being 14. I had a question for you. Have you ever seen anyone been affected with heavy subjects mentally, especially on this case? I heard there were some pretty gruesome images shown in this trial, and it had me wondering the long-term effects on not only the jury, but the judge too. Thanks for your effort. Keep doing what you're doing. I know of jurors who have gone to therapy, who have gone to counseling because of the case. I would imagine that it is offered through the court. I would imagine that the judge and the attorneys that services would be offered for them too. And I would think that many of them might want to take advantage of it. Not only that, the police officers, because goodness gracious, how has this affected them? And it's been so long. So good question, Levi. Sorry you couldn't make it in there the whole time. So just so you know, if you're thinking about bringing kids, it sounds like 16 is the cutoff. Originally, there wasn't any age that we heard of, but sounds like the judge said 16 and Levi was able to get in there for a few minutes. Hi, Nate. I hope you start feeling better. Thank you. My question is, did they ever say anything about Tylee and JJ's phones, tablets, or iPads? They did when they were seized in Hawaii. They had some of those devices there. They had Tylee's phone and JJ's iPad and some computers. And I don't think if we knew of anything that was on there yet. Is the jury sequestered? No, not yet. But if Chad's found guilty and they go into the death penalty phase, they will be. That's another thing to remember, too. Chad's guilty, penalty phase starts right away. These jurors have to live not together, but basically locked down in a hotel until they have a verdict. And that'd be crazy if they ended up at the same hotel as me. But could they be watching Courtroom Insider? They could. They're not supposed to, but they could. But if you know any of them, after this is all over, tell them to get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to them if they want to talk. No pressure. Do you know how many words per minute you can type while doing live updates? Man, I don't know. Depends on the person testifying. Sometimes they get going so fast I miss stuff, and sometimes it's kind of slow and I have to, summarize what they're saying. But it will be nice when my wrist can have a break in a few weeks. Tanji asked, do I think Chad really believes what he preaches? That's a good question. I think Lori does. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. I don't know about Chad. I really don't know. I'd love to meet him and talk to him. I say I'd love to. I mean, I really wouldn't love to, but I'd like to interview him and ask. I don't know if I'd get much out of it. I'm wondering what happens after these trials are over, Nate. You need a true crime podcast. You've been a comforting voice when talking about such morbid details, Rhea says. Oh, thank you, Rhea. I'll tell you, it actually helps. I told my wife this. It helps me to come here every night and talk about what happened during the day and not have to... this whole idea came up because I knew I'd be out of court during Lori's trial at 3:30, and I'd have the rest of the day. And I've always been a communicator through word rather than writing per se. And so I didn't want to go back and write out a whole story and then be done and have the rest of the night by myself. So I thought, maybe I'll do, and there wasn't video in that court, that trial. So I thought maybe I'll do a little recap that'll be 15 minutes every night. And then it grew to 30 and then it grew to an hour. And apparently some of you liked it. And so for this one, I'm like, okay, I'll do it again, and maybe we'll add viewer questions. I mean, we did this during Lori's, and man, the questions have been coming in, and maybe we'll add shout outs, and I don't know, maybe we'll try different things. So as far as what's after this, I don't know. I guess maybe we'll see. I am planning to go to Arizona for Lori's trial, whenever that is. Many of you have asked if I'm going to cover Kohberger. Probably. And then if there's other trials that come along. True crime is not really my passion. I like it. And of course, I'm going to CrimeCon, and my gosh, I hope if you're at CrimeCon, we're doing some cool things. I just had a Zoom call yesterday with the Scamanda. If you're one of the 2 people that haven't listened to Scamanda, the podcast, 80 gazillion downloads about the woman that faked cancer and got all this money like from celebrities and would go to the hospital and put a port in. I mean, it's just crazy. Anyway, I'm going to be talking with the creators there. Plus Summer, Lori's sister, Summer Shiflett. I'm going to interview her at CrimeCon. Her first interview really since 2020 after Lori was arrested. She hasn't spoken much. We did speak the day of the sentencing quickly, her and I, but nothing's off limits. She's going to talk about whatever she wants. And then I'm going to do another thing with a court sketch artist where you can come in and actually sketch a courtroom, give it a try yourself. And Erica's going to be there. She's coming. If you're at CrimeCon, please come and say hi. If you want to go, you can use promo code EATON. I don't get paid. It's EATON, and you get 10% off. So long answer to a short question. I'm sorry. The prosecution has already proven the case, William says. Why don't they stop now? This is a taxpayer event. It's not right. Well, William, they may have proven the case to you, but what about your 16 other jurors? Have they proven the case to them? I don't know. Maybe some of you watching, have they proven the case? I'm sure they'd rather go overboard and be sure than think they have when they haven't. Paul, if Tammy was so sick as per Chad, why was he spending the night with Lori that night? If Tammy was so sick as per Chad, why was he over spending the night with Lori that night? The children died rather than being home with his sick wife. I don't know exactly what you mean, Paul. The night that Tammy died, Chad was not with Lori. She was in Hawaii. So they weren't together. And then, I'm not sure. I'm wondering, this is a concerned viewer, with increased concern, the steps being taken to provide life care for the jurors, attorneys, staff. This is haunting, nightmarish, and that would seem appropriate. We talked about that a minute ago. I believe that care is available. Probably not till after the trial, but Amy asks, there were 2 separate cases in regards to all these deaths. Why was the altering abuse of a corpse 4 separate charges dismissed by the prosecutor? Has this ever been discussed before? Good question, Amy. There were original charges in the beginning. I think once they had enough evidence to go with the murder and the conspiracy, every single charge you have to prove, of course, and they probably just went straight for the big ones and realizing that if they get guilties on those, they're guilty. If they convict him and give him death penalty, where do they house him? We talked about that a second ago. Wasn't Alex supposed to go to Hawaii too, but Lori said to Melody that he needed to stay back and help Chad? Correct. Then Tammy dies and Alex's device was at the Salem church on the night she died? Correct. Hi, Nate. I'm wondering how hard it is to get into the courtroom. Well, everyone's been able to get in. I say that, though, and more of you are coming. So I'd hate to say that if you come in, you're going to be guaranteed. But the line starts normally around 7. So, hi, Nate. Can you tell us if they ever exhumed Alex's body to see if there was the reason he died? They did do a big autopsy on him, and they declared natural causes. So that's what happened. I used to work in the kitchen of a jail, and when someone is going to court, they get a sack lunch, a PB&J, or a bologna sandwich with the nasty fake cheese, and sometimes they throw in a granola bar. There you go. So maybe Chad's enjoying bologna or PB&J with nasty fake cheese. Couple more. Will the prosecutors ever be able to mention the reason Lori Vallow has been convicted and is awaiting another trial in Arizona? I do not believe so. I don't think that can come into this trial. They haven't thus far. If it came in, it would have to be probably from the judge. If they convict Chad and give him the death penalty, where do they house him? I answered that one. Since the ability to execute inmates via firing squad cannot currently take place, can the state request access to a neighboring state's firing squad facility? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if they would. I think before they would do that, they would, with Mr. Creech, it's because he was old. They couldn't get a vein. With Chad, he's quite younger. Assuming he gets the death penalty, they probably wouldn't even get to it for at least 10 years because of appeals and everything. So by then he's in his 60s. They would probably try for that, and by then the firing squad might be ready. If Chad Daybell is convicted of death, he's not going anywhere for quite some time. I have jokingly said, but not so jokingly, I will probably be retired when it happens. And I don't plan to retire for another 20 years. Maybe. Some days earlier. We'll see. But Emmy, my daughter, might be able to cover it. Not that I'd want her to. Okay. I think that's all the questions. But somebody earlier asked if the prosecutors can... So after the defense, prosecutors have had their witnesses, defense can have their witnesses, prosecution can then call up rebuttal witnesses before closing arguments. They get another crack at it. So, the prosecution could still call additional people after the defense if they want to. Okay. Oh, thank you. The lady that talked to you today. Sorry, there's a few more questions. I won't be offended if you gotta go. Did the lady that talked to you today that had a crush on Chad when she was younger know Tammy as well? She didn't know Tammy, but she went to Tammy's funeral, and that's the last time she saw Chad. Nate, does Chad look the same in person over the video clips we've seen? Just curious. The people in the courtroom are the size of ants on my phone. I will say this image behind me, Chad has lost weight. He is thinner and he has aged. His haircut's different. I've seen him a lot, so on the video, I don't really even... He does look a little different. It's best... Tomorrow I'll ask some people who see him every day in court and get their thought. Will you be asking Detective Hermosillo for an interview now that he's officially released from being a witness? Yes, I will, but none of them are talking until the verdict is in, from what I understand. And then I'm going to ask them all. In fact, I've thought about doing like a live event in Rexburg at like a theater, like a town hall type thing that we live stream and have the prosecutors, the detectives, and I just kind of interview them. I don't know what your thoughts are on that if you'd watch, but just do it there live. And people, if you're in Rexburg, you can come to the auditorium and sit down and we could just like have an evening of, whatever. 1 hour wouldn't cover it. But yeah, I do want to interview a lot of these people. If the jury wants to go see the property in person, could Pryor deny them access or does he have to let them? Good question. Pryor could have filed a motion to take a field trip with the jury. That's happened before. I don't know logistically how in the world it would happen here because the property is like 5 hours away. And logistically getting 17 jurors out there, and of course the neighbors are going to want to go out, and of course news people are going to want to be there. So I don't know how it would happen if the jury came in property or judge, we want to go see it. They have really shown so many GPS satellite images of that property that, it's laid out. But there is something different seeing it in person, I'll tell you that. Was Tylee's phone ever recovered from Lori? Yes, in Hawaii. Was anything relevant found? Not that we've heard that I can recall. Did you see Chad give Lindsay Blake a mean look after the phone call testimony? I didn't. Maybe he did. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, everybody, here's where you can find us. You can find me. I'm on the Facebook at the Nate Eaton Reporter. I try to respond to as many messages that I can there to you. There's my Instagram with my family pics, my Twitter, my X, and then East Idaho News, YouTube. My wife also is on the Meet and the Eaton channels often, interacting with those of you in the chat. So thank you for going there. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back at 8:15 for the trial that starts at 8:30. You can watch it here live with us. Peggy's in the comments section chatting with you all. I pop in, I have it up on my window, but sometimes I have to disconnect because you guys are often pretty funny and I can't laugh in court. So you can comment and read the chat. Thank you all for supporting us there. I do live written updates all day on East Idaho News that you can go read. Plus Courtroom Insider. I'll be back here tomorrow. And remember that tomorrow I'll be talking with the former juror and or either tomorrow or Friday. And I will have no shortage of questions because I've got 302 emails from you all. So thank you for watching. Looking forward to being back with you tomorrow night. Have a good one. We'll see you.